Hello, how you all doing? Mike Bradley here. Hope you are doing well as always. Eric Clapton. Now, I think it's safe to say Eric Clapton is probably the most famous guitar player of all time. You know, if you ask a non-playing guitar player, name me a guitar player, chances are they're going to say either Jimi Hendrix or Eric Clapton. You know, he is one of the founding godfathers of, you know, the modern electric guitar, you know, and acoustic guitar, because he brought that back. So if you're new to my channel, this is a little series I do called What I've Learned from Such and Such. And today I want to talk about my first guitar hero, really, Eric Clapton. Now, obviously, the subject on Clapton has been spoken about many times, and it will be spoken about again many times by many other people, and rightly so. Good, Eric's a man. He really is, you know. So I just wanted to share some things which I picked up on his playing, and I suppose is integrated into my own playing. Now, at the beginning of the video, you saw the famous Crossroads guitar solo, and I want to talk about that and show some cool ideas which I've always loved from it, and I want to talk some other things as well. I'm using my Gibson 345 for today. I thought it was very apt. Annoyingly, I don't have a Strat here with me at the moment, so I'll stick with this. You know, obviously Eric was a Gibson man for the first stage of his career. He had a Telecaster and Yardbirds, and Telecaster right at the beginning of the Blues Breakers, and then he did Les Paul, and then the SG. And people go on about the Crossroads solo being on the 335. I'm 99% sure it was the SG. That time he had his long hair, he had the tash, and I think because we see the Albert Hall footage with the 335 with the shorter hair, but that was 69, I think, and Crossroads was 68. So I think it's safe to say he had the SG for that, you know. And that solo, let's just talk about the Crossroads solo. When you think that the guy was 22, 23 years old and he was doing that, you know, is brilliant, because the tone is amazing, because he's got a Marshall turned all the way up, you know, and it sounds like there's reverb, but it's not. He's playing in a big room, so you've got the natural room reverb. For this, I had my new neighbour reverb pedal on, because my little Fender amp, the reverb in it is gone. And I've got a Vertex Ultraphonics and a Seymour Duncan 805 stacked together to get this on the bridge pickup. So let's just talk about that. So he is playing over the changes, basically, you know. So, you know, you got your A chord, and he's thinking A major. Okay, and then when it goes to that 4 chord, that's always one of my favourite licks, that bit there. Let me put this drive on. You know, so he's going into now A minor pentatonic over the 4 chord. So let's get this straight away. The big thing to get from Clapton, when you're playing it, you got 3 chords in blues. Yeah, 1, 4, 5. So on the 1 chord, think major with a sprinkle of minor. Okay, so I'm on my 1. You know, so sliding into that minor there, that G note. So I'm on the F sharp, which is major. Think shape 2, and there's shape 1. Both sharing the same root note. There's your minor 3rd, and it goes to the A there. Some blues guys, like I think Steve Ray Vaughan, they go to the high A up there. But so on the 1 chord, major, sprinkle of minor. On the 4 chord, minor with a little sprinkle of major pentatonic. Okay, so okay, so that's all on that 4, you know. So you've got the 1 chord, so that little he's bringing that back into the 4 again, which is really cool, you know. And now he's in the 4 chords. And then when he's gone to the 5, he's putting in that major 3rd. So on the 5 chord, you can kind of treat it like the 1 chord. So you can have major, a little bit of minor. Or you can do pure minor over it. It depends on the sound you want. But so as a little rule of thumb, 1 chord, major, sprinkle with minor. 4 chord, minor, sprinkle with major. 5 chord, kind of treat it like the 1 chord. You know, major, a little bit of minor in there. So just those little things there. So that's another thing. So I got this from Eric when he would, you know, so he's finishing on the 5. And he'll play that 5 notes, in this case in E. There's that Blues Breakers stepping out. So you got you know, so he would highlight, you know, down, down, you know, where the chord is. So you always, when you're doing a guitar solo, believe it or not, you always want to be aware of what you're playing over. And there's many people who aren't, and they just think of their licks and they want to get their licks out and that's it. But even on a blues, which is, you know, deemed simple, when really it can be quite tricky. But you want to be aware of the chord you're playing over. So that bow ba da ba down, he knows he's on that 5 chord. Bow ba da ba down, ba da 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 down, down da 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 down down down. You know what I mean? So he was doing it 2 years prior in '66 with the Blues Breakers as well, you know, and he got that from B.B. King and Albert King and Freddie King and, you know, the Kings. So that's the big thing there, is the chords you're playing over in blues, right? Big thing. Now, later on the solo, you got all this kind of stuff. So this is all A minor until later on he's going back into the major again. So it's that seamless blend going from major, minor, major, minor, major, minor, you know, so getting to know that neck completely over and backwards, all right? That's all major. You know what I mean? So you see me going through there. So, you know, if you think you know your pentatonics, do you really know your pentatonics? Do you know your minor and major all over the neck? So that's the big thing there from Clapton. And no, there's a reason everyone goes on about that Cream era Clapton, you know, the kind of the 60s Clapton, because he had so much intensity, you know, and he wasn't a very animated player like Jimi Hendrix, for example. You know, he would kind of just stand there, close his eyes and go nuts, you know. But that vibrato, you know, which I'm sure he picked up from B.B. King, you know, like I say. He meant every single note. He would just put it all in there, you know. So he's he was a very strong guitar player, you know, very strong hands. So he wasn't going nuts like Jimmy. He would, you know, and you'll hear. He'll do a lot of that, you know. So there I'm in shape 4 in G. He'll do a lot of that. Yeah, you're bending it, I'm in shape. Bending up that. You can do it anywhere, but we'll do it here. 13th fret. And then he's doing 1, 2, 3, 4 on that high D. You know, there's that great footage from the Albert Hall. Again, he's got his long hair and his tash, and he's playing in front of some Marshall stacks and stuff, and you know, it must have been so loud. And he's talking about that, you know. I can't remember what key he's in. I think he might have been in D. And you hear you're throwing that minor major third thing. So now I'm in D again. Sorry, I'm changing key over the place. So it's a great way of building up intensity, you know. Always like that when he's playing. So that's 60s Clapton, you know, and then he got into the 70s, and he went into the singer-songwriter kind of thing, and very influenced by J.J. Cale and the band and all that kind of stuff. And he didn't want to be a guitar soloist anymore, so to speak. Now, how I came about him was, I remember my teacher was teaching me Tears in Heaven. And I'll talk about the unplugged thing in a minute. And I went to a record shop. Remember those, when you go to a shop and you'd actually buy a physical CD? And I bought the single of Tears in Heaven, which I still have, but unfortunately not here. On it had 3 extra tracks. You've got Tears in Heaven, and then it had a couple of tracks from the 24 nights he did in, is it 1990 or 1991 at the Albert Hall? And it had White Room and Bad Love. And Bad Love, I adored. I thought that is just, and I still think, isn't it? Oh God, where's it going? You know, and I think in there he's got something like that going on. Those bam, 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 and I just realised Robin Ford did stuff like that. You know what I mean? That again, it's a great way of building up intensity. It's a really cool way of like, I love all that. So hearing Bad Love, that live version, I adored, and like I say, still adored. And from that, I'd always pick up these little, these sounds of Clapton, and you would hear him go. You hear him do a lot of that, you know. Da, 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 da. So I'm in A now. Either way, I'm in shape 4. So you're on the 13th fret on the 2nd string, then going to the 15th fret on the 2nd string, and then going back to the 13, hammering on and pulling off from the 15 back to the 13, and then to the 14th fret on the 3rd string. You might slide into shape 5 there. Again, cool way of building up intensity, and it's all just pentatonics. You know, it's all pentatonic. Love that, you know. So people go on about the 60s Clapton a lot. I'm also a huge fan of the 90s Clapton. If you get a chance, I'm sure it'll be on YouTube. If not, you know, I recommend buying it. Eric Clapton live at Hyde Park, I think 1996. And Steve Gadd's on drums. It's an awesome band he's got, and an awesome gig, and he is on fire. He's got that charcoal frost or pewter colour Strat. I always forget the actual colour. And he's on it. He is on it. He's comfortable, and he's on it. I don't know how much more I can stress that he's on it. And you hear the maturity in his playing. You know, obviously the 60s one, that kind of young renegade, and he's still got that intensity, but he knows a few more things. You know, after, God, I can't do the maths, 30 years later, you know, 60s and 90s. But he would still do a lot of that. That I heard that kind of more in the later years as opposed to in the 60s, you know. So you can kind of mix match them all together, kind of thing, which is really cool. Now Eric isn't really known for his chordal work, you know. There's a great line in his biography that always makes me laugh. When he said about when he joined Cream, he had to play a lot more bar chords. I thought, oh no, Eric, you got to play bar chords. What an end of the world there, you know. But he's more known for his lead work. But as we know, he did that amazing album Unplugged. And if you saw my last video with doing some blues, showing some cool acoustic blues licks, it's very Clapton influence there. So I'm not going to go into it today. But that his Unplugged stuff is just, I love his acoustic guitar playing, especially on that Unplugged album. And that came out in 92, 3, and I think it was about 96, 97, there's that song Change the World, and he teamed up with Babyface. And that, fair enough, I don't think Eric wrote that, but that song is a phenomenal song. And now you hear about this new era of neo soul. That song, I think, is one of the kind of early versions of what we know as neo soul, you know, because I mean, you got all that going on, you know. Awesome, but the chorus, I could change the world. We got a minor 7 flat 5, a minor 7 flat 5 chord in an Eric Clapton song. An E chord with a G sharp in the bass, which is really cool. So if you think, if I had a capo there's my D chord. So I'm just doing it, so I'm on there, E, B and E. And then what would be that G sharp on the top is now there. Alright, very gospel sounding, you know. I love all that. I love that. Like I say, now I don't think Eric wrote the song, but the song is still classed as an Eric Clapton song. Beautiful, beautiful work there. Now, when I said about the gospel thing, Tears in Heaven is a beautiful song, but the chords are very, very gospel-like. And what I mean by that, a lot of times if you take like piano chords and piano voicings, a lot of times with piano they play a chord and the bass note is different And so, you know, with Tears in Heaven, I haven't played it in a long time, but you know, so you got an F sharp, you know, the kind of the melody note is the same, but the bass is changing, which is really, really, it's amazing. And then it modulates in C. Same thing going on there. So you've got a C, G over B, A minor, D over F sharp, and then G, F sharp, D over F sharp, sorry, E minor, back to D over F sharp, G. And then back to A. It's beautiful, and I think that's why it touches people. No, even just playing that badly, but even just playing that, you can get that emotion of it straight away. I certainly can playing it. I'm not just saying it to kind of go on about it or something. You know, like I find those changes so yeah, emotional. You know. So even though, like I said, you know, he's not really known for his chord stuff, he still knows what's going on. There's I remember hearing, I think, an outtake from Unplugged doing a very early version of My Father's Eyes, and he's kind of in E. So he's in E there, and then when he goes to the A chord, he's playing over the changes again to E. So much like I was saying earlier in the blues kind of stuff, he's always aware of what he's playing. He's not just thinking, well, I want to put this lick here, you know, and I love that. And again, I did that in that acoustic lesson a little while ago, but throwing in that major third. Eric likes the major thirds. Like all the great blues guitar players like their major thirds. Now if I do that a bit of angst in there, if I'm in it. what can we pick up from this? I think the main thing is playing for the song. That's a big thing. Playing for the song and not just thinking in terms of licks. Yes, guitar players, we have our trick bags, you know. And like I say, Eric would do a lot of that, you know, little kind of, you know, licks he knows in his little trick bags and throw them all together. But it's still playing for the song, you know. And so something like that, when I was mucking around with the kind of idea he did in that My Father Size, you know, there he's thinking of A, I'm assuming. You know, he's thinking, okay, I'm on the 4 chord of E, which is an A, I'm playing over that, you know. So really you can think of it that he's singing on the guitar, you know, as a vocal thing. He's singing. And any kind of big runs is all in the motion of it. But it's trying to think of melodic lines instead of just showboating, if you will. It's all playing for the song. And regarding chords, he knows a little bit, you know. And I say that my Tears in Heaven is, I think, you know, that song is 30 years old. And I think it's so relevant today. I was fortunate enough to, I've seen Eric play a few times live, but the last time was 2 years ago at Hyde Park, actually. And he played Tears in Heaven. And, like, it was so, because everyone knows what that song's about, but it was incredibly emotional and powerful. And I remember I was with my girlfriend's dad, and, you know, so I'm trying to, you know, typical macho kind of thing. And I look around and see some people crying there, and I look over there and people are crying there, and you're like, oh my, you know, you can't help but get so emotional. I could just feel a lump in my throat going, you know, like, it's such a powerful song. But the reason for that is that gospel influence. So if you get anything from this lesson, as well as, you know, admiring how great Eric Clapton is, if you get anything from this video, do check out some piano chord, like look at how piano players voice their chords, you know, or just simple things of, you know, take a C chord. And what you could do, you could know first inversions and second inversions. So a C chord is made up of a C, E, and G. So if I've got a C chord, the root note is a C there. So I'm slightly out of tune here. Let me just quickly tune up. Right, in tune. Now, there's your C chord, root note in the bass, yeah? Now, if I put the third in the bass, there's your C chord there from that chord. I'm putting E there. Or you could put the fifth in the bass, which would be the G note. So if I've got a C, I could have that. So say you've got something going, I don't know. Gives it a nice bit of body. F chord. F chord of a G in the bass. I better put a Clapton idea. So do that, you know, check out piano players and their chords, you know, and check out a load of Eric Clapton. Like I say, that Crossroads solo, probably, you know, that was done in, I'm sure it was 1968, but correct me if I'm wrong. And that is probably still up there, one of the greatest solos. And it was improvised. It's all improvised, you know, and the problem is, if you hear other live versions of that song, it doesn't seem right, because that solo is so ingrained in us, you know. The Albert Hall he plays a bit differently. It's like, oh no, do like the, you know, like you did on what we know as the record. And I don't think Eric was a big fan of it. I think right at the end you could hear, oh, that was a kerfuffle. I think you can hear him kind of say that. Don't quote me on that. I'm pretty sure that's what you can kind of hear very faintly. It's like, oh, that's English, but like, that was a mess, basically, you know, English slang. But I I for one think it's a good solo, and I'm pretty sure you're thinking the same. Anyway, that's a few little ideas I picked up from Mr. Eric Clapton over the years, and he will always be one of my key guitar players, you know. It's Eric Clapton, man, you know. And I got my first guitar where Eric Clapton got his first guitar, Bell's Music in Surbiton. So that's all, and he doesn't live far from it. My friend's parents live not far from him, and I remember we went for a walk. It's a place called Pitch Hill, and Eric's house is right by there, and I remember just like seeing the gates. Like I was expecting to see like a choir of angels hovering over. You know what I mean? So oh, Eric, what a man. So anyway, hopefully some of this rambling's helped, and yeah, let me know how you get on throwing some claptisms in your playing, especially you know that. I love that. And then so that kind of is kind of what I do. So you kind of throw in a little bit of that and a bit of that and a bit of that, and you get you. Basically, you know what I mean? Take all influences, throw it all together in a big pot, and you will come out. So I hope you're doing well as always. If you want to get a Mike Bradley t-shirt, link in the description box below. Thanks for your love and support as always, and I'll see you very soon. Mike Bradley signing out. Bye!